3 years ago, I don't know if people can relate, but you get that little noise in the back of your head where there's just something else out there. There's something that you're meant to do. And I think that was C11 Recovery. So I sat there on my couch at home and created an Instagram page called C11 Recovery and popped up a coming soon post, shared on my own page. What was coming soon? I had no idea.
So where are we now? 2025, coming towards the end, 2025. Where is C11 now?
We're the official recovery partner of the DP World Tour, Munster Rugby, Basketball Ireland, Cricket Ireland. We've covered the Ryder Cup, all the Rolex Series events at the golf. We've done installations in 14 of the current Premier League teams. Just recently, we've done an installation in Man City. We've covered the Open, both male and female. We lead into our event season now in the Middle East, where we've got 3 golf events. We cover the T100, and then we come across the Dubai Sevens, where we work directly with Emirates, and then back out in January for the Dubai Desert Classic.
It's not a bad life, is it?
When I kind of think back, I'm like, wow, that's impressive, you know?
Ryan, welcome to the pod.
Thanks, Gary. Absolutely delighted, buzzing, excited.
Pleasure. You have been everywhere in the last 6 months. I've seen you and the brand absolutely everywhere.
Yeah, it's been such a roller coaster. And I think you got it there in the last 6 months to kind of 12 months. It's just been on an absolute rocket ship. And yeah, it's been incredible.
What is C11?
C11 is my passion project. You know, it's the thing that kind of gets me going. I love talking about it. It was never meant to be the monster it is today. It was like, it's still relatively new. Like, we're only 3 years in business.
3 years.
3 years.
Just remember that, because the context of that is going to be, as I was driving in today, I was like, I need to keep his timeline in mind. And I want to make sure everyone else listening keeps the timeline in mind, because it's a bit abnormal. So go on, 3 years in business. We launched C11 Recovery 3 years ago, me and my little brother. And it's loads of different funny stories on kind of where it came from. But I guess 2 little avenues that kind of brought it together was, one, I played elite sport, and I was obsessed with the 1%ers. So I was like, how can I be better than someone else? So I kind of got to the realization that everyone was doing the same gym program. Everyone was doing the same work on the pitch. So it was the little bits like the nutrition, the kind of recovery that might bring me to the next level. So from a young age, from like 16, 17, 18, I was obsessed with ice baths. I was obsessed with saunas, kind of those little bits and pieces. And then 3 years ago, I don't know if people can relate, but you get that little noise in the back of your head where there's just something else out there. There's something that you're meant to do. And I think that was C11 Recovery. So coming out of COVID, I sat there on my couch at home and created an Instagram page called C11 Recovery and popped up a coming soon post, shared on my own page. What was coming soon? I had no idea, but I just said I'd put it up because it had been in the back of my head, but I was like, I'm either never going to do this or do it. So once I put the post up, it created the animal. Then people was like, what's coming soon? I was like, well, I'm not sure yet, but something good. Yeah. You said something really interesting there. And I think a lot of people listening will relate. So I'd love to dig into it a bit. Is that feeling of something else, that feeling of doing something else. What were you doing at the time when you had that feeling?
Yeah. So I definitely haven't got your typical entrepreneur story where I went to college, studied business. There was this kind of plan behind it. Like I served my time as an electrician. So I worked in construction since I was 14, 15, since I was old enough to be allowed on a site. My dad had me on a site, and I loved it. And I'd done it for nearly 15, 16 years. Worked with my dad, served my time as an electrician, and worked on construction sites across Ireland and the UK. And I'm not going to say that I didn't enjoy it and want to get away from it. I was very fortunate that my dad was very young. I've got really young parents. So there was kind of that itch that I used to love when we had an issue in work and people would come to know my dad with the issue and he solved it. Do you know? And I kind of wanted that. I craved that responsibility. I wanted to be in charge. I wanted to be the one where when things were going wrong, there was issues, he sorted it. He fixed it. And I kind of thought that, okay, I'm probably not going to get that opportunity with Noel Casey Electrical because he's so young. You know, he'll probably outwork me. That man's not going to retire anytime soon. So I kind of just said, look, I've learned all the skills. You know, I've learned how to be a leader. I've learned how to kind of manage people. You know, he's brought me up the way he brought me up. And I just said, you know, I want to crack at this. I want to kind of maybe step out of his shadow, or, you know, anytime I'd get a new Jeep or you'd be somewhere, they'd be like, oh, that's a work Jeep. That's daddy's Jeep, do you know?
I get you. Yeah.
Where that was never the case.
So no matter how hard you were going to work, you were always going to be in the slipstream of Noel.
Exactly, yeah. And look, I'm grateful for everything I got as a child and for the experience I got with Noel Casey Electrical, but I just felt C11 Recovery could be my baby, you know? I could be in charge. What do you think it was
your dad taught you? Because like, I think it's so important as a dad to kind of lead by example, not by telling. So what do you think it were the key traits he gave you?
Like my grandmother, every time I come in for a cup of tea in the evening and stuff, and I'd say something, she's like, your father will never be dead when you're around. Do you know? That I've just essentially copied and pasted what he's like as a man. And it's hard work, you know. Everything I do is built on hard work, manners, and just trying to leave an impression in a room. Like everywhere he came in, whether it was a dressing room, whether it was the work, whether it was the family kitchen table having dinner, his presence was felt in a good way. Everyone kind of, you know, the mood lifted. They looked forward for him coming in from work to come to a game. And I just like, that's what I wanted to be. That when I said something, I'd done it, you know? And he just got maybe instilled in me that success, money, a nice Jeep, a nice house came from hard work. There was no other way around it. It was, you were up early, you were gone. Like, I don't think I've ever seen my dad asleep. You know, I've never been out of bed before him. And that's just what kind of came to me. That's what hard work is. That's what running a business. You're up at 5, you're back in at 8. It's just that kind of hustle. And that's where success comes from.
Was it hard then though, when you were stepping away? Because I mean, I imagine there's like, he probably, I don't think he probably put pressure on you. There was probably an expectation on you to then follow in his path.
Yeah. And I think that's where you're saying the rapid growth of C11 and the success, I felt like I owed that to my dad, do you know, because in one sense, he'd given me such a good platform. You know, he'd given me a really good career, really good life. And I was not turning my back on it, but I was like moving to something else. So it was kind of like, well, if I'm doing this, if I'm going to take this kind of, not disrespect, but step away from a family business, I'm going to ensure it works. I'm going to ensure that like I can bring that success back to him and I can bring everyone with me. That it wasn't that he headed away, you know, willy-nilly came back, that I was like, if I'm doing this, this is going to be the biggest thing in the world.
That's a lot of pressure.
And I loved it. I loved the pressure. I loved the chaos. I absolutely it's my biggest adrenaline rush that that's on my shoulders.
Do you ever feel pressure in the normal sense? Do you ever feel stressed?
Yes, but I enjoy it. I like, I've changed a lot since C11 has started. Maybe at the start, the stress and the panic, I kind of got caught up a little bit, but then I kind of got that. I've done a lot kind of in leadership and mindset and stuff. And I always knew that if I came out of that stress, I was going to be in such a better place. That stress was never going to happen again. Like that stressful day you have in work, everything's going, phone's ringing, that's never going to happen again, ever. Because you're going to complete that day. You're going to have that skills that day is never going to happen again. And once I bought into that, I take a little bit of a step back. The phone, orders haven't been delivered, the shipment's caught at sea, and I was like, take it back. If I complete this, I'm going to be in such a better place by tonight and tomorrow. And it just changed my mindset on it then, that okay, 2, 3, 1, whatever it was, count it down and just go at it. And yeah.
I love that. That's a really good framework. It's so simple, but as I get older, the more I kind of realize everything is just framing. Everything is how you look at things. We were chatting about this in the gym the other day, and it's not that you have to go, it's that you get to go. Even just by framing it like that, kind of going, what a privilege. If it's been a hard session, like what a privilege to be able to do a hard session. And for you, you've kind of highlighted that there, is that I love that you'll never have that day again. Like you've learned that. And I think a lot of people get stuck in like, I have to do all this again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Whereas you look at it and go, I've completed that and I'm stronger and I'm better and I'm wiser for it?
I think it's mindset. Everything is just mindset, you know, like you can pivot any day into what you can be. Poor me, traffic. We traffic coming in here this morning, you know, we just cranked up the radio a little bit louder, put on a good music, you know, we're such a luxury spot that we get to come in here, spend the day with you. You know, if you can change the mindset that I'm coming in to do a podcast, I get to travel today, you know, not the flight was delayed, traffic was bad, you know, I'm rushing around, the airport was so busy. Like I hear people and it kind of creeps in when they're having those conversations and, oh, my gym instructor was late this morning, but you got to go to the gym. You know, my coffee didn't taste great today. You know, they burnt the milk. I'm like, yeah, well, you bought coffee. You had money to buy coffee. Do you know, you could walk down the street. You met your friends. They were late for this. It's just how you kind of put it in your own head can make all the difference. And that's been a huge change for me in the last kind of 12 months where I've completely, not that you need negativity, but sometimes, you know, there is a time and a place to kind of have a little bit of a cry and a whinge. But if you can change that mindset, it's changed my life. It's so hard to explain to you.
So how did you do that? Because that's very obvious in theory, but I think a lot of people get stuck in either their environment, who they surround themselves with, or they've just got these stories they tell themselves, oh, I can't do that because. So how did you rewire the brain?
I kind of, about 12 months ago, I had a couple of days to myself. I kind of switched off from everyone. And like you said, the people surround yourself with is so important, you know, and something about being an entrepreneur that maybe doesn't get picked up a lot. It's a very, very lonely place. Like you have to be prepared that you're going to lose childhood friends. You're going to lose out on relationships. Family members are going to look at you different. And it's how you deal with that. And then the people you decide to spend your time with. Do you know, I don't want to go into a room and listen that work was bad, you know, my day was long, all this negativity. And I'd done my best to remove that from my life and then spend time with people that were talking about crazy business ideas, crazy travel trips that, like, you know, I was just sitting there being like, I'd leave a room with my energy will be so much higher than what I came in. And I just love people like that. There's like a handful of people now that I love going for coffees for. And they're chatting about the next invention. They're going to start a business here. And like, if anyone heard us, they'd be like, that's crazy. You know, those guys are on a different level altogether at 7 o'clock in the morning chatting about reinventing the wheel. But I love those conversations. And it just helped me then. I'd come away and be like, you know, my energy was so much more, my mindset, I was just way more dialed in and kind of switched on.
You have to see it to be it is the one thing I talk about in the pod all the time. But how did you find those people? Because that's the one thing people ask me, they DM me and it's like, you talk about building a network and building an environment, but I don't have those people around me. I'm not from that area and blah, blah, blah. I literally had this conversation with someone last week and I was like, well, you need to go out and find them. You need to be active in those groups. So how did you do that?
I'm very fortunate that with C11 Recovery, we spend a lot of time with kind of elite athletes and high performing people. So I was kind of unlocked that network. But it's, you know, there's only so much, you can be put in front of people, but I made the effort. You know, I wouldn't have been the most overly, people listening will disagree, but I wouldn't be the most confident person in the world. Do you know?
That does surprise me.
Yeah. To come out and have a conversation with people or someone I didn't know in my own circle, I'm comfortable. You know, I'll chat, I'll tell stories, I love it, I'll have a joke. But this was a completely new world for me. You know, I'm used to a work van, construction site and that chitter chatter. But this is like people that have created businesses worth millions that I now found myself in. So it's like, I just had to kind of, if I want to be where I want to be and where I think I'm destined to be, I need to be having these conversations. You know, and I say it to my little brother that works with me. He's kind of quite similar to when I was growing up, a little bit quiet. And I'm like, if you put yourself in these uncomfortable situations, having these conversations, that's where you grow. You know, if you just stick with your kind of your friends or them same circles where you're comfortable, there's no grow in that for you. It's when you sit down and chatting to people like yourself, you know, organizing that coffee, following through with that coffee, you know, that's how you do it. And when you feel that sick feeling in your stomach, that butterfly, like, what am I going to say? They're usually when the best conversations happen. That's where the magic is. I feel.
Yeah, I think you're completely right. It's reps, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just doing it and doing it and doing it. There's no real magic. Oh, just say these 3 things. But you now surround yourself and you spend time with some of the most best athletes in the world. A few weeks ago, you're at the Ryder Cup. So you're with the top 1% of the 1%. How do you handle yourself around these people? How do you learn to be around them, not in awe, like, oh my God, there's Rory, but more almost like a peer?
Yeah.
So how do you do that?
I haven't changed one bit. And I think that was the most important thing that I had with C11 Recovery, that I had my values that I wrote down at the start that I've stick to since I was young. And these 1% of the 1%ers like Rory, you know, we spend a lot of time with Premier League teams, Man City, Haaland, these kind of soccer players. They're normal people. Everyone is a normal. Everyone has that kind of time away from the camera and they appreciate it. We come in, we provide a service and we treat them like my mate in the street that I'm going for a coffee. They get the same handshake and the same respect as the waiter in the coffee shop, as someone I meet in the street. And that's the kind of value that you get with me. You're not going to get a different Ryan with Rory McIlroy. He's going to act the exact same way as if I'm ordering a coffee that morning in a coffee shop. And that's helped me. And people appreciate that. You know, they kind of see through everything as like, you know, he's a decent bloke. He's here. He's going to do what he says. And that's how I've found it's worked for me.
You talked about values there. Can you outline them?
I suppose that the value I have is, and it's everything, I've kind of different branches off it, but when people see me or meet me, I want them to feel better. Do you know, I want them coming away saying they feel better about themselves, their mood lifts, their energy lifts, and I try build everything around that, whether that's my staff, new clients, anything. I come into a room, I try to make their life or their day a little bit better. And if I can do that, I feed off that. That's what I found makes my days better, is that kind of when I meet someone, like I've heard a couple recently, I've chatting to a couple of guys and they were like, oh, I was chatting to such and such. He said he was out for coffee. He was chatting really, like, he said his energy after coming away from you was unreal. And I was like, that was like all my Christmases coming at once. I was like, people are actually saying this about me behind my back. I'm like, what I've been trying to implement for years, it's kind of coming, the fruits of my labor from working as an electrician, going into construction sites, shaking hands, being polite, you know, tidying up after me, being the last one to leave site, the first one to arrive, is now kind of all those little stepping stones with no reward. And I feel like if I was doing these for a reward, it wouldn't work. Do you know, I don't meet people and I don't say stuff for them to say that and things. Do you get me?
Yeah.
But it's like, it's my value. That's the way I am. Regardless, I'm coming into a room and I'm going to be that person. And it's just great now that like people are kind of noticing and having a couple of kind words to say about me.
It's interesting because I spoke to Dan Lawrence, who's one of the best performance coaches in the world. And that was what he echoed. It's like, it's everything. It's not doing one thing well once. It's doing everything well consistently and being that consistent operator. So your standards are just high. You hold your standards because you can't drop your standards. Oh, today I'll be 50%. Yeah. He's like, it's here all the time. Because I asked him what's the difference between like elite operators and like normal operators. He's like, standards, speed of execution, and how they handle themselves. And
like everyone will have off days. You know, there's some days I feel like, you know, but if you can be that 100% of that day, you know, it might be 80%, but if you're 100% of that, you know, if you're bringing your best foot forward every day, I think, you know, it can just open so many doors.
So bring me back to like 23 years ago. You'll be able to remember pretty well. Bring me back to like 3 years ago, because I want us to kind of go on this kind of journey of where you are now, but I want to go back to the start and go, how did this start? Because you were an electrician, you were sitting in a van, you're on work sites all the time. So you had a hectic life as it was. So why go into recovery at all? Like you said, you were doing it from a young age. That's probably the root of it. But why then kind of go, do you know what? I'm going to leave what was probably a very lucrative career, a path that was very clear for you for success in inverted commas. Why leave that?
Kind of what I said at the start was I wanted to be the main man. I wanted to create something that I was proud of. Not that I wasn't proud working with my father, but it was something that, you know, I wanted to just throw my hat in the ring. I wanted to see, could I do it? Could I create something different? Like, And the mindset at the start of C11 Recovery, when we launched it, was never, oh, we'll see how it goes. Do you know, this, if it works, it works. Like, I was maybe that little bit delusional that when we launched C11 Recovery, in my own bedroom at night when I'm taking journals, I was fully sure this would be the biggest sports recovery brand in the world. There was no doubt. There was like no bit in my mind that was like, oh, we'll dip our feet. If it doesn't work, I'll go working with my dad. Like, and that's what made it so hard, because I knew when I shook his hand and left, I was never coming back. Do you know, there was no, look, I'm going to do 3 months at this. If it works, brilliant. If not, I'll pick it back up. It was like, good luck, goodbye. I'm going to create the biggest recovery brand in the world.
Like, that's spicy. Like, yeah. I love the ambition, because I think Irish people, we need more ambition. That's spicy. Like, how did you get that confidence?
It's maybe my biggest green flag, and my biggest red flag is my confidence at times. You know, people say that about me, but I just knew that if I put my mind to anything, like, I've been pretty successful at different things throughout my life, whether that's sport, relationships, anything that I can buy into, I know I can, you know, produce the goods. So a good team, surround myself with a good team. I had a clear plan. Like, C11 Recovery business plan was drawn out when I was 15-year-old. That's how, like, yes, it launched 3 years ago, but I had the concept from when I was playing Kildare County Minors as a 15-year-old. We used to get lugged off to a recovery room that had ice baths and stuff. We'd finish training at 9, half 9. Then we'd drive 30, 40 minutes. And then I would realize, like, I'm not getting into bed till like 12:30 and getting up for school the next morning. Like, where's the recovery? Yeah. Do you know, I'm only getting 5-6 hours sleep.
Well, what you're gaining in the recovery, you're losing in the sleep.
Exactly. And I was like, why doesn't someone pick up this recovery room and just drop it at our training pitch? That when I come off the pitch, I do my 20 minutes, I'm in and I'm home. I get my food. Do you know? So, like, I was sketching business ideas, and my poor father, like, I'd say he has had hundreds of business ideas, and I'd come to him, I'm like, can I have a loan of €50 or €100 or €500? I'm going to build this, do you know? And he'd be like, just go to work, do you know, kind of take a step back. But I designed something when I was 15, 16 years of age, which was a trailer, and I had ice baths in the back of it. I wanted to buy a Jeep and tow this trailer around with ice baths to sports teams. So 3 years ago, when...
What age are you now?
I'm 30. Okay. 30 years of age, just turned 30 in the summer. So getting on. Yeah, so 3 years ago when we launched C11 Recovery, like, I had no experience on how to build a proper business plan or what way we should go about it. I learned everything from podcasts, from listening to, like, as an electrician, when I was on a site, earphones were in, I was listening to Will from Whoop, all your podcasts. I was taking little snippets. Like, I have a diary at home that I hope to sell for millions in the future, do you know, because I took best one-liners from everyone, how they built the brand, how they built the company, do you know, and that's what I went off. I looked at, okay, do I go back to college, do 4 years doing business? You know, do I go that route? And I was like, no, let's just get onto the field. Let's just figure this out. Let's just make the step, start putting the stepping stones in place and figure it out as we go along. Say yes, and then figure it out afterwards. As
you walk the way appears. Like,
exactly,
I love that.
you know?
I think that there's nothing, plus you had experience. You've been working since you were 15. You knew what good looks like, you know, and so many business skills are transferable from this industry to that industry. People skills are probably the biggest thing in business that people overlook. They're like, oh no, I need to go over and learn how to do a profit and loss. I need to go over and learn how to do this strategy and stuff. You don't really. You need to start working and start figuring out what it is people want.
But all them things you mentioned, profits, losses, there's experts in that field. I'm never going to say I am. Like, I've no experience in that. I'm probably my accountant's worst nightmare, do you know? But I realized that I can bring in these experts, you know? I seen my skill, that I can bring people together, I can lead, I can coach, you know? So that was my skill. So there was no point trying to step away from that and trying to focus on other aspects. I brought in these experts in that field, and I just said, come on, we're going on a crazy journey, follow me. And that's what we done with C11 Recovery. We leaned on their expertise and stuck to our own skill set.
I love that. Like, build on your own strengths and then bring in for your weaknesses, because same as you, I'm never going to be a financial expert. I know profit, I know loss. I know I can sell it for 20, buy it for 10, great.
Yeah.
There's a 10 euro buffer there, probably have a £5 profit. I'm the exact same. But I think that's overlooked so much because people feel they have to be everything. They have to be, good at this and good at that. And people spend years leveling themselves up by single percentages, as opposed to you going, I'm just going to bring in finance, I'm going to bring in this, I'm going to bring in that. I don't need to be all things to all people. So give me the first kind of 6 months then of C11. How did you go from the Instagram page coming soon to your first couple of clients? Because that's the piece I love breaking down for people that are listening, who there go, I'm just like Ryan, I have an idea, I want to get going. How?
So we had no money, absolutely no money. There was no investment. There was no bank account that had money there that we were going to we had zero. C11 launched. That Instagram page was made with like zero. No money, no funding. So I had to then have a think, how do I create a brand with no money? How do I build what I want to build with no money? So I knew the most important thing was to start gathering a following. I needed everyone in Ireland mentioning C11 Recovery. So it started with a recovery box, a plastic Tupperware. This was my kind of idea to get the brand out there, get influencers, get kind of elite sports people talking about C11 Recovery. I knew the recovery truck and my kind of main project was coming down the line, but I couldn't afford to go out and buy a van or buy ice baths or anything like that. So I had 3 pairs of Normatec boots at home. From my time playing with the Kildare Hurlers, I kind of had gathered up 3 pairs of Normatec boots. That's all C11 started with, was 3 pairs of Normatec boots.
What are they for people that have no idea what they are?
They're compression boots. So essentially it's like having a sports massage on your leg. It's a brand in the US. There's loads of amazing brands that have come out since, but they were kind of one of the first, and I had 3 pairs of them. And I was like, how do I get these to people now? So I went to Choice and I bought 3 plastic Tupperwares. I then went to the local label printer, got the logo, C11 Recovery, stuck it on the lid, put the compression boots in, put some Epsom salts, foam rollers, massage guns, anything that we could afford, anything that was a small purchase. And then we just start reaching out to people and saying, hey, we've got this recovery box. We rent them out for 3 days. Would you like to try it? And just like that, I got my little brother. So he was driving around in a little Volkswagen Fox around Dublin. He'd pick up a recovery box off someone, disinfect everything, go to the next person. And we just drove around like crazy for those 3 to 4 months with just 3 recovery boxes. That's all it was. That's all we had to our name. And people used to say to me, you boys had boxes everywhere. I used to see you here, and then you were down in Cork with this player, then you were in Belfast. And I was like, it was just 3 boxes that we'd pick up, drive through the night, sleep in the car so that we weren't kind of wasting money on hotels, anything like that. Give them the recovery box. And they were renting for like 150, kind of 60, depending on the rental. So like, it wasn't huge amount of money. Like, we were cut so fine. But we then realized that, and it's something I came to the realization that sometimes you don't need money. It's all network. Do you know, it's who you can partner with. It's who you can lean on. It's stuff like that doesn't necessarily need to trade stuff for money. A lot of people think you need this, you need to buy this, you need to buy this. But I think the richest people or the most successful people don't spend any money. It's all their network. You know, it's all the cool trips I've been on, all the cool places I've gone. I haven't paid for them. Do you know, it's a trade-off. And I think when you get to that level in business, you kind of realize that it's your network and who you surround yourself with is where the real wealth comes from.
How did you figure that out? Because I love this strategy of like, you knew what the plan was for the recovery truck, but that takes money you didn't have. And this is the bit that I think so many people fall down on, is that they feel they have to start at the end. They have to start with the finished product. They've started, a cool building or blah, blah, blah. Whereas you were like, no, I need exposure and I need network. So when did the penny drop for you that it's actually the network was the valuable piece?
Well, I knew we needed to build a brand. We needed to associate ourselves with other brands that had a following, and we didn't have the money to buy into these or to come with these. So me and Jack had to eat, you know? So I was like, how are we going to afford to eat Monday to Sunday? 2 guys that are going to the gym, playing sports. So I was like, let's get a meal company on board. So we reached out to a couple of meal companies. We knew we'd start to gather a little bit of following. Like, it was just coming out of COVID, where I feel like everyone was a little bit obsessed with their their bodies, their health. I think it made a lot of people realize that maybe take a step back and our health's our wealth. Do you know? I think everyone was sea swimming, everyone was going to gyms, everyone was exercising. So C11 Recovery came at a good time, and it kind of, even in them first couple of months, it went a lot quicker than we could have imagined. So we partnered with a lot of cool gyms, a lot of cool food companies where we got free access to the gym, free meals. So any money that we were generating was going towards creating money in our bank that we knew we can go get financed to buy the equipment we need. And that was the goal, to save as much money we could in 6 months, to have a track record, to go get our business loan, to build the real C11 Recovery dream.
Okay, so you're really strategic. So like that's a contra deal where you exchange, services for services. Yeah. So you were giving them recovery boxes, they were giving you meals, and you were kind of, I love that social proof though. You said something really interesting there at the start of the answer of, we couldn't afford to like pay these brands, so we partnered with them. Mm-hmm. That's huge. Like been clever enough to social proof, attach yourselves to brands that are probably a bit bigger. So then how did you build that following? Like how did you get your first 10 to 20 customers?
We leaned on influencers, high-end athletes. We knew this was relatively new. Like sports recovery wasn't, I'm saying I was obsessed with at a young age, but it wasn't at the level it is now, where everyone was cold plunging, everyone was on it. So it's like anything. It was something new. Everyone kind of wanted to touch it and feel it. And we leaned on that. We leaned on that kind of, we used to put messages out. We're fully booked this weekend. We had 3 boxes. And we'd be like, all 25 boxes are out this weekend. And people are like, they have 25. I want one of those. So then anytime we put up a fully booked message, they're like, when is your next free slot? And we just kept building it like that. That expectation created demand that people wanted to touch the box. They wanted to feel it. They wanted to put up an Instagram story of them wearing the Normatec boots. Yeah. And we just leaned on that. And that's how it just snowballed till we got to a position where we were able to get our first truck on the road.
So then bring me forward 6 months. You grafted at that, doing the boxes, literally just making enough to get by. Bring me on then. Was it 6 months you got your first truck?
Yeah. So about 6 months into C11 Recovery, we purchased our first truck. And that's where I'd say C11 Recovery started. The boxes was, yes, I have fond memories of us driving around like crazy, disinfecting, but that was a plan to get enough money to buy a truck. And I feel like after 6 months, C11 Recovery really started. That's when the business, the idea where I wanted to be at kicked off. So essentially we got a van, we put 2 ice baths in the back of it, which we were contacting people and they'd ask on the phone, sorry, you've what? You've got a van with ice baths in the back. We're like, yeah, can we come to your team? And we just essentially done what we done with the boxes, with the truck. We had 1 truck and people thought we got this crazy investment and there was like 10 trucks driving around Ireland. It was just me and Jack working 20 hours a day, going to clubs. Like we contacted every GA club in Ireland, every GA club, and said, we're coming on Tuesday, free of charge. We're not going to charge. Everything's free. You get to try out what we have, because it was new. It was something different. It's not like we could copy and paste a business plan or copy and paste what someone done a couple of years ago. This had never been done before. Like no one was doing this. So we had to open people's eyes to it and get experience, touch and feel it, so they could go, whoa, okay, this is something we want the whole time. So we drove around, I'd say, for the guts of 4 months and didn't make any money whatsoever. We were just doing all the recovery sessions free of charge. And it comes back to a story I heard, and this is what I'm saying, my business knowledge is from stories, podcasts, YouTube videos. So I lived in Australia for just over a year, and I roomed with a guy called Aaron Cunningham. So he would have won an All-Ireland with Clare in 2013, I think they won the All-Ireland. And we were out in Oz the following year. And he'd done a bit of work with Backballer. Do you remember the foam roller? Yeah. The green one?
Yeah, I do.
So he'd done a lot of work with that. He had hamstring issues and that's a Clare man that kind of brought that brand out. So he'd done a lot of work with him. And he told me a story about Man City. So Man City, the guys were in the office, orders are coming in, and they see an order coming from Man City for 1 Backballer. Owner sees this, is like, wow, this is Man City Academy, rings it up and says, look, we've got 1 order here, scrap that. I'm going to come over with 100 back ballers. I'm going to show you the project. I'm going to show you, get the first team players using it. And he ended up with content of Aguero on a foam roller. Do you know? So for, I don't know the cost of it back, €85. So then he invested whatever the cost of 100 units, but then it was gold. You've got one of the biggest soccer players using your brand. And that little story that was said to me on a couch or probably having a bottle of beer at a barbecue stuck in my head. So then when I was like C11 Recovery, I was like, okay, I can get, like, everyone in Ireland loves stuff for free. Everyone. They just love getting a deal. They love getting something for free.
Everyone in the world.
So I was like, let's lean on that. Okay. Let's get the biggest people in Ireland. We can have them sitting in our truck because they love their health. You know, everyone was kind of getting into the cold plunge, and then we could use this to promote the brand. And then it just trickled down. People seeing their favorite soccer player, their favorite rugby player, their favorite GA player using it. So like, we want this. If it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. And that's where kind of C11 then just kicked off. I'd say after the first 6 months of the boxes, 4 months of the kind of grafting with the truck, we started to see our rewards. Like, we were looking at each other at the end of the week being like, we've never had this amount of money before. You know, this is
you're
crazy.
just on under a year in
Just
there.
under a year when we kind of actually start making adult money, I'd call it, you know, that we were ready to buy
money.
stuff, you know. We were able to kind of maybe go back and get a nice pair of clothes or a nice new set of runners. But that was definitely a year. That was a year before that really happened at C11 Recovery.
And like, that's a short time, but also a long time when you're grafting every single day. And I love, and thanks for being so open and breaking it down with us, because these are the things that really help people. These little stories whereby, I don't know how he got from like here to there. You know, like, people look at you now and see working with like Ryder Cup, Man City, and you're like, how on earth did he do that? Whereas when you break it down to stuff like that, the social proof, working with high profile people, you know, been willing to graft without initial reward. That's the big one. Not looking for an immediate, a lot of people look for an immediate payoff right now. I have to get paid today for this. They're not willing to be strategic and kind of going, right, well, what's the, as you said, if I'm not exchanging it for money, what am I exchanging it for? That's a huge insight.
I think people can get caught up, and I see this whole goal setting, or, you know, I want this, and money seems to be such an important aspect of it. You know, I want to make this, I want to build this because I want to have freedom, I want to spend money. But if you can, and it was something like, don't get me wrong, from a young age, my parents will tell you this, I was obsessed with money. I used to love like a €50 note in my pocket. But I kind of changed from that. You know, I said, it's not the be all and end all, having money in the bank, going on fancy holidays. I was like, this is unreal. I'm living my dream. I'm like going to work with my little brother in a van. We're getting a flat white, you know, we're enjoying this. We're meeting some of our heroes. Like, we were working with the best GA teams in that time, the best rugby teams, Leinster, Munster. I was like, this is incredible. Yes, we're not getting paid the money, but we're building something. There's something more enjoyable than money. You know, that kind of feeling and that journey. And if you can, I used to be a big goal setter where I'd like jot down 3 goals. I'd be like, right, and at the end of this month, I want to reach here, here, and here. And it was kind of at C11 Recovery, I kind of stopped that. And I was like, yes, I know where I want to be, but it's like, how do I get to that goal? And that's what I'm going to enjoy. Because, like, you know, anyone that knows goals, you write down 3 goals, you reach them. What do you do next? You write down another 3 goals. You reach them, you write down another 3 goals. But if you can then somehow enjoy the madness that leads to those goals, it just changes everything. Life becomes so more enjoyable. Do you know that you're like getting up every morning, you're like, wow, I have to do this today. This is going to be unreal. Like the podcast this morning, I didn't sleep much last night. I was like worried, nervous. And then I kind of kicked down. I was like, this is unreal. I'm literally living my dream. I'm driving up to Dublin. I get to be on a podcast that I've listened to. This is incredible, do you know? So that kind of mindset in the first year of C11 Recovery, that, okay, we mightn't have the money I had working with my dad, but I'm living my dream. I'm doing what I want to do. And I had that delusion in the back of my head that this is a trade-off for success 3-5 years down the line. I'm putting in this hard graft now because I know what's coming.
I love that. That's a great story. And I love the fact that you said something there, we're building something. That's the beauty. And it's not, I'm a big goal setter as well, and I kind of go over and back on it. but it's not even the goals, it's who you become on the way to that journey.
Exactly, yeah.
So I have a very specific fitness goal at the minute, and I'm working hard towards it. When I reach that, I've already started thinking what the next one will be, because then that changes me again into who I'll be when I reach that. And then for me, it's all the journey. It's been able to get up every day and enjoy that journey and do the journey and do things you enjoy. Like this is an unbelievable way to make a living.
Yeah.
I love it. Honest to God, this is my work. I sit down on a Wednesday morning with you. It's incredible. And I think it's easy for us to sit here and say that now, but like you, I did this for a long time for zero. Zero. I was editing everything myself. I had like 50 listeners. I went back and looked at the first 6 months. I think there was under like maybe 500 listeners.
But I can guarantee you enjoyed those first 6 months as much as you do now. And that's the importance. Do you know? It was the actual podcast that got you up, you know, that was your why. That's why you wanted to get up in the morning. And it doesn't change if you have 10 euro in your bank account or 100k in your bank account. If you enjoy what you're doing, you've won.
And the rewards will come then, because you get better at it. You become a craftsman, you become obsessed. Like I'm obsessed with it. Yesterday, I spent the whole day just working on messaging. Just messaging. How do I talk about the podcast? What do I talk about it next year? What's the messaging next year? A full day, obsessive on just messaging, often spending like half an hour in a sentence.
Yeah.
That's the obsessiveness you get then from just going down the rabbit hole and sticking with it. So we're 1 year in, 3 years ago. What happened then after 12 months? What was the kind of, like, because spoiler alert, we had a great coffee and I heard this story and I love it. So after 12 months then, what were you thinking? Bring me back to Ryan's mindset after 12 months. You were starting to make a little bit of cash. What were you thinking?
We got our big break, you know, and a lot of people say we got lucky, but I feel like we created our own luck, because we never would have been in that position to get lucky if we hadn't grafted like we did for the first year. So out of nowhere, a phone call arrived on a Friday evening. So we live in Kildare, just out in Dunedin, and the Irish Open was coming to the K Club. Someone had let down the DP World Tour in terms of cold plunges. Last minute thing, Friday evening, can you be in the K Club Sunday to provide recovery services for the players? So you've got Shane Lowry, Rory McIlroy, Adam Scott are coming to town, the biggest player. Now I had to double the number and double check, because I had, in the first 12 months, I've got quite a witty group of friends that were giving me calls and saying they were from Liverpool and looking to book the recovery truck. So yeah, we rocked up at the K Club, and definitely, so we had the recovery truck at the time, and they were looking for actual cold plunges set up in the locker room, which we done, but we also parked the recovery truck with no permission right out the front of the K Club. Like our trucks were covered in C11 Recovery, and that was the rocket ship. We just jumped on board. And it really didn't stop from there. But the important thing, and a lot of people say, oh, you must have pulled in this person and you must have done this. We done the exact same thing that week for Rory McIlroy that we had done for a rural club down in Cork 6 months previous. Because the service we were providing to that reserve team in Cork was at the level that Rory and these Premier League teams expected. And that's why C11 Recovery shot, because we made sure that we had all the practice and we were driving around for free. So if we forgot a pair of Normatec boots, if we made a mistake, teams weren't, you know, they were getting the service for free, but we were all learning, and by the time that opportunity came up, we'd mastered it. We had everything down. We knew exactly what time we needed to be there, the equipment, the uniform. Like, I had people's heart broke. When we done a recovery session, they thought it was for free. They didn't have to pay, but they got a phone call from me the following day and be like, look, be as critical as you can. What was wrong? I remember like a gym owner saying, you guys didn't arrive like with uniform. I didn't know you were in your casual clothes. And I said, that'll never happen again. And I went out and I got us uniforms, and I made sure then from that day on, anyone that does a C11 Recovery, they're kitted out, they're branded. So it was all little bits like that when the Irish Open and a brand like the DP World Tour came to town, it looked like we were made for it, because we had practiced and we'd put in all the stepping stones to be at a level that when we needed to be at the top, we were there. We knew exactly what it took, you know? And it just that was the real kind of the moment that it changed for us. You know, we provided a service. It went really well. I remember meeting with the top doctor on the Saturday, and he said, is there any way you guys can get to London and do this in Wentford next week? And I remember just saying, yeah, coming out and like nearly leaping 10 feet off the ground. I was like, how is this real life? Do you know?
Play it cool.
I was like, yeah, I'll have a chat with Jack and see if we can do it. And I was like, cancel everything. We're going to London, you know? So he drove the truck to Wentworth, and we done the exact same service we done a week previous. On the Friday at Wentworth, he sat down and he says, look, we actually, the next bit of the Rolex series events is in the Middle East. Have you got anyone in the Middle East that you can lean on, or we can get us these services? And not without a second thought, yes, we can do it. I'd never been to Dubai. Jack's never been to Dubai. We'd never been that direction of the world, but we said yes. And like everything, we figured it out. And then leap kind of 2-3 months where we're on a flight to Dubai to look after the world's best golfers in a Rolex series in Abu Dhabi and Dubai.
You have a lot of mad stories, but that's one of my favorites. That is an absolute banger story, because I agree with you. Luck plays a huge part, but you have to be in the position to take it, recognize it, and deliver. That's the difference. People talk about lucky breaks, and I was very lucky. And usually it's humbleness, but you don't get that luck if you're not elite in the first place. If you're not providing an elite service to Rory, yeah, you'll do it on a Sunday and then they'll be like, yeah, the lads are grand.
Sure,
see you later. We'll go back to now find someone. Whereas when they automatically just took you in, kind of going, yeah, these guys are our operators now, to ask you to go to London and then Dubai. Talk to me about saying yes to like the Middle East. What was your thought process, and what did you have to do then to get ready? Because you just had a recovery truck, right? Mm-hmm. How did you even think about getting the stuff to the Middle East, the logistics, all that kind of stuff?
It was a huge eye opener, you know, like, and I'd kind of got away with it in Ireland, you know, saying yes, and I'd such good people around me, you know, I could lean on people and they'd pull in, they'd give me a favor, and it was network. But I'd no network in the Middle East. I'd known I could even ring. You know, I remember texting one person saying, what's the weather like? What sort of clothes do people wear? You know, when I was packing my suitcase, that's as little as I knew about the Middle East, you know. When people go for dinner, they wear shorts, you know. I'd only kind of done your typical Spain holidays, little bit of Europe. I'd never been to that side of the world. So that was the little bit of knowledge I had. And I just leaned on my knowledge that, well, if I can do this here, it's just, yes, it's the other side of the world, but why can't I do it there? And we jumped on a flight. We worked with a really good brand at the time called Vantapool, which is a cold plunge manufacturer in Finland. And that kind of, I maybe skipped forward a little bit, that kind of got involved in C11 Recovery, where the truck was going so well and we seen the demand for this equipment. We were generating enough money that it went from buying the truck to being, let's buy the distribution rights for these. Let's throw a crack at this. Let's, you know, there's a huge demand for this. We couldn't keep up with the truck bookings. Teams were ringing us like we were double, triple, quadruple booked.
Okay.
And we were like, you know, yes, we were making vans as quick as we could. We were cutting cold plunges. And then we kind of came up with the idea of, okay, well, look, use our recovery truck. You like the service, you know, which is at a small cost. Here's another cost. Let us come in and let us kit out your facility with all the equipment we have. And that's where then we kind of pivoted a little bit from a service to a distribution side. So at the time the Dubai event had come around, we were the Irish distributor. And our sales were nuts. It was absolutely incredible. Like, for me, no experience in sales. We'd no experience in sales. We just stuck to those values. If I come back, manners, handshake, and saying something and providing it. So, like a little stat, and I don't like drawing on too much. In the year Vantapool was in Ireland before we took the distribution rights, they sold 5 ice baths. Our first year, we sold over 300 cold plunges in Ireland with no sales experience, no marketing, just me and my little brother. I remember the first day I sat down to do sales, I'd listened to a few podcasts, took the laptop out, and I know that the guy I'm going to mention won't mind me mentioning this. And I Googled fancy gyms Dublin search, right? That was it. That was as simple as I made it. I had a brand new diary in front of me, new pen, like first day at school. And a gym came up, Eden 1. I rang up, reception. Hey, is there anyone I could speak to? And they said, yeah, the owner is going to come in, Got on the phone with him, had this whole kind of sales pitch, how the pool worked, how it operated, everything. Real nervous on the phone, And I said, look, would you have time to talk about a cold plunge? He's like, we just had a meeting this morning about one. Could you come in and have a chat? That was it. And I drove straight to Ballsbridge. We closed the deal. And I was like, sales is the easiest thing in the world. I could, it was just, it was luck. But like I said, you need to be in that position to make your own luck. And that was the first cold plunge I ever sold, was to Eden one. And then just like that, it's the credibility of a really good brand, a really good facility has your product in, and it just snowballed. And then we just couldn't, the phone would ring on 8 o'clock in the evening, 8 o'clock in the morning, and just everyone wanted our product.
It's phenomenal that you spotted the opportunity to go from a service to distribution, because that's a big leap straight away. How did you think about that? Like, how did you kind of go, do you know what? Because I think a lot of people, if something's going well, they just do more of what's going well. It's kind of human nature to kind of go, oh yeah, we'll just keep doing what we're doing. How did you have like the insight, I suppose, to kind of go, yeah, service is going well, but if we expand ourselves a little bit more, because you're only a year and a half in the business at this stage?
Year and a half. When I say like after a year we started to make money, we were making money for me and Jack to survive, and pay our bills, pay our loans. But I was like, this isn't what I had in mind. Like, I bring you back to the start. I said I wanted to be the biggest in the world. So I was like, how do we take that leap from there to there? And the distribution side of things is what kept like kind of coming into my mind. We can generate a lot more money from this than the service. A lot of work goes into a service. Anyone that's in the service, like, or provides a service, knows the amount of work that goes into it. Where you can pick up the phone, someone will buy a cold plunge, you can ship it, and I haven't left my desk. So it was a lot more scalable. And I realized if we wanted to get to the level where I wanted to be, we needed something else. We needed a little bit of a boost, and the cold plunges just came at the right time.
Yeah, it's an incredible insight. A friend of mine, Barry, always says that. He goes, Gar, it's in the distribution. Yeah. He goes, the money is in the distribution. He always talks about it when he's talking about business models. He's like, the distribution is where the money is made. He goes, inventing the product is a lot of money, and then the second tranche of money comes in owning the distribution of that product, if you get a good product.
And it's been naive enough to allow yourself to pivot.
Yeah.
And change. Because a lot of people I see can get stuck in their way, and they're like, I went to a couple of business advisors when the distribution rights came available. They're like, stay away. No, 100%. You've got a service, it's going to affect your service, because people are going to buy a cold plunge, then they don't need you. They don't need the recovery truck. 3 separate business advisors told me to stay away from the distribution rights for Vantapool. Don't take it on. That the money that was involved, they said, could cripple you. You're going to draw everything the company's made to buy those distribution rights, and then it's going to affect the recovery truck. So I listened to all 3 people, and I went and bought the distribution rights for the Vantapool, and it was the best decision I ever made. Now they work so beautifully together. The recovery trucks is now the biggest marketing tool, and probably the most successful marketing tool that we could have ever imagined. It's going around, it's showcasing our products. It's essentially a mobile showroom now.
Yeah.
Everyone gets to see it, feel it. Like, if you want to buy something, a cold plunge is a pretty high-end purchase. Imagine getting to sit in it, feel it with your partner, your friends, your gym, whoever you're going to purchase it. You get to actually sit in it, feel it. And like, there's no better feeling than you get than getting out of a cold plunge. No one enjoys a cold plunge. Anyone that tells me they enjoy a cold plunge is lying. 100%. I do it every day and I still don't enjoy it. But that 30, 40, that hour afterwards, I absolutely love.
Yeah.
And it's that dopamine hit, it's that feeling that got people hooked. So we were able to kind of use the recovery truck to push sales. And it just worked so beautifully. It was like a match made in heaven. Sometimes I think I see one of those business advisors, he's kind of a family friend, and I sometimes have a little bit of a smirk at him, and he's just like, well, it's only you that would have had the balls to make a decision like that. And it just worked. And I think those are the risks. You have to be, distribution was never in the plan. But to see that opportunity and not be like, no, my plan has to work. This has to work. Trucks have to work, to say, okay, let's pivot a little bit. Let's try this. And I think that was the beauty of it.
balance this then? Like, how did you keep on top of it all? Because like, obviously incredibly service businesses, I've had one, they're hard bloody work. Like they're 24 hours a day and you're getting paid money for your time. It's a killer. But then how did you then balance going, right, we're distributors now and we've got the service, we can't let the ball drop over here. How did you balance that? Because again, you're only a year and a half in here, you're still learning as you go. How did you do that?
A good team. I kind of, from day one, I never had that, I have to do everything. You know, I kind of tried to treat C11 Recovery what I knew, and that was sport and team. So I tried to create C11 Recovery like a team. If you look at any successful team, you know, look at the Kerry footballers, they won the All-Ireland this year. Yes, you've got David Clifford, you know, maybe one of the best footballers that's ever graced a GA pitch. But look at Joe O'Connor, look at Paddy, look at the management, look at the backroom team, the S&C, their nutritionist. Everything that they use builds the machine that we know Kerry footballers. So I tried to implement that in a business strategy that, like, I can't do this. I can't run a service business. I can't run a distribution. Let's bring in the best salesperson we can afford, the best person we can get, the best marketing, you know? And I just created this team that I maybe was the leader and I was selling my vision to them, but they helped me build a dream. And it just made everything like clockwork. We got systems in place. It was all chaos at the start, you know, and I think that's the beauty of it. You know, we broke through the glass ceiling and then maybe took a step back and start piecing it all together and putting systems. And it just kind of, like clockwork, just kind of was a machine that it is now.
How do you hire a great team though? Because this is something that comes up all the time. Just hire 8 players, hire a great team. But you're only a year and a half in. How do you find the money and get these people to actually go, yeah, do you know what? I'll take a punt on a company that's 18 months old.
You kind of, maybe this is wrong on me. I don't think I've ever read a CV. You know, I'm not a huge person on what degree they have, you know, I'm a real people's person and I can get that energy. I'm a really good judge of character. And again, I leaned on my network. You know, I reached out and look, this is what I want to do. And I'd no naivety of me that I knew how to do everything. And that was being introduced to Enterprise Ireland. That was able to then help us get the funding to hire people. You know, so I was kind of leaning on every tool I had available. And I think that's something that business owners don't do. They kind of get tunnel vision, they go straight on. And then, like, I spoke to loads of people and they're like, you can get grants from Enterprise Ireland. I'm like, yeah, like, you know, you kind of have to just be so open-armed and take in all the help from anywhere you can get. And that's what I done. And it just slowly, we hired one good person, then we hired a second good person, a third, fourth, fifth, and it just grew like that.
Simple.
Simple, stupid, you know? peel it right back, you know.
I love this because I'm a big fan of simplicity. Like, as I get older, I just want simple everything in my life. I want to strip away anything that's complex at all. I just want to do the simple things really well. So then how did you yourself become going from you're in the van, you're driving around having the crack? It's a very different situation then to being a leader, a distributor, flying all over the world. Like, how did you yourself mentally shift?
I found it very difficult. It was very hard for me. And that was, it kind of, there was a 3-month period that I go back to that was very difficult. That I got what I wanted. You know, these issues were coming to me. I was the leader. Everything I said at the start, this is what I wanted. And I was like, I got a lot of respect from my father over those 3 months being like, how did he do this? You know, because there's a lot of responsibility that people don't see. You know, you've got staff that pay bills, they've got car loans, they've houses, they've rent, and the kind of buck stops with you. You need to provide, you can't just not show up. You can't take a couple of days off and say, you know, I don't really feel like it today, because there's a lot of people kind of relying on you. And it was a little bit of an imposter syndrome that, you know, how am I in this position? You know, how am I here? How have I done this? And again, I just peeled it right back to what I knew. Let's kind of just step by step. I was thinking, how are we going to afford this in 6 months? How are we going to do this in 12? Right, let's master today. Okay. Let's get what we need to do today. And my dad was a great mentor. He's probably the only, you know, I've brought loads of people into my life now, but he was my original leadership mentor. He was the one that, no matter how busy he was, he'd pick up the phone. I said, look, and he's like, just peel it back. You know, just peel it right back. What's the issue? Not what's the issue in 3 weeks, but what's the issue today? How do we fix today? And then that was the calming that, okay, let's sort what we have now. And then it was just stacking days, and
do the next thing.
Doing the next thing and just doing it right. Back to that, like, you know, it kind of maybe took that big leap that we maybe weren't ready for at the time. And then it was just like, let's bring it back. Let's the service, do what we say and do it well.
Because you've accelerated, like bring us kind of like from kind of a year and a half into year 2 now, because I think there's this huge growth there, and then we'll go into year 3 in a second. How did things scale? Because obviously you had the van, then you started distributing. So in terms of like the business, the operation and the finances, like what kind of scale are we talking about from jumping up here? Like, are we talking like a 2x return, a 5x return? How big are we getting? How quickly here?
So we'd gone from year 1 of myself and Jack to year 2. There was nearly 12 staff members at C11 Recovery to start. And that brought us to the Middle East, which was just a different animal, which was just something that opened my eyes like I'd never had before. I remember that first trip to Dubai, I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked on, this is where I want to be. This is like, everyone was so like-minded. You know, anywhere I went for a coffee, the conversations were those conversations that brought your energy up. No one wanted to be kind of successful and work-life balance. People wanted to be millionaires. People wanted to be billionaires. I was having conversations with the wildest people while I was over there. And I was like, how do we get this? How do we now, yes, we've done an event in the Middle East, but how do we transform C11 Recovery to operate over here? And that's what we done. We essentially picked up the company in Ireland, little old rural Ireland, and dropped it bang in the middle of Dubai. And again, we relied on good people. I've got some of the nicest people I've ever met in the world working for me out in the Middle East. You know, we've a lot of kind of Indian, Pakistan, and there's a bad rep, and the Middle East gets a really bad reputation for slave labor. And there's a lot of aspects over there. And I feel like the uniqueness of C11 Recovery coming into that region, and those guys get treated the exact same way as I'd want to be treated. I didn't change absolutely anything. And the respect and the relationship I have with them, like I was telling my grandmother a couple of weeks ago. So when it was my birthday, you know, you get your family members, the odd friend or distant friend, or maybe that one ex that might pop up with a happy birthday on the 4th of May. All my staff over there were ringing me. They were sending me like little cupcakes. And that was a huge moment for me, that I'd built this, that they didn't see me as a boss or maybe someone that was barking orders, that was near a peer and a friend. And they would turn up the ground for me if I asked for it, you know?
How far into your journey is this? Like, when did you decide? You obviously did the world tour event there in a year and a half in.
Yeah.
And
year two. So you went
there, did the tour, and then was like, okay, I can see the potential here. What was it about that? Obviously the ambition of the area, the conversations you were having, but it's a huge decision. Again, you've made a couple of massive decisions here. So I want to kind of labor the point about, you went from the truck to distribution to now going, we're going to take the company and move it to the Middle East.
So we were the Irish distributor for Avantapool. So I flew straight to Helsinki, and I met Mika, which is a good friend of mine, the CEO of Avantapool. And I said, give me the distribution rights for the Middle East. I'll do anything. And he was kind of like taken back, you know, because they'd been very successful in the region. And I was like, I can do it. You know, 100%. If I can get that bit of faith from you, I can turn it around. Like, he was showing me the numbers, which is numbers we had never seen before. I was trying to count the zeros as best as I could, you know? And he was like, are you sure?
Using the fingers to go as far as you can.
Are you sure you're very successful in Ireland. You've created something really good in Ireland, but this is a different animal. This is a completely different beast. Like, in the Middle East, they could have done our yearly sales in Ireland in 1 month. Our yearly sales in Ireland, that we were like life-changing here. And he was showing me, this is 1 month, you know? And I said, yeah, I can do it. I'm fully sure that I can create a team. And I feel like the uniqueness of C11, where it's a service base, we can get people into your product. There's if you look at any other kind of brand or distribution around the world, it's very unique that you can get people using your product before they buy it. And that's what we had. We had such a good an event team behind me that I knew I could build a brand. And that's all it's about, is people hearing your name, seeing your product. And if you're in enough places and you keep popping up online, you keep popping up here, you keep popping up there, when that decision comes that I want to buy a cold plunge, or I want to buy a sauna, I want to buy a recovery equipment, and I feel like I've done a pretty good job of that C11 Recovery kicks in, that it's kind of your first thought. And that was my business plan in Ireland. And then we just done the exact same out in the Middle East. And we're lucky, I'm lucky it worked. And just like the first day in Ireland, sales start coming in. And again, I knew I wasn't maybe the right person to be the main leader. So I brought in experts. I brought in people that had operations. I've got some of the best operators, I'd say, in the world working for me that can build systems like that, And that was the key, bringing in people that I could trust and knew more than me. I never wanted to bring in anyone that I had to teach, because then I felt like it was never going to work. I wanted someone that I could learn off, someone that was a step ahead of me, knew more than me. I didn't want to bring in, I see a lot of businesses like they maybe look at, well, we can get someone cheaper and we can train them. That was never my mentality. I wanted to bring in people that were better than me, because I knew that's how C11 was going to grow and scale.
What was it like for you personally then, launching a new business in the Middle East? Because obviously it's a huge opportunity, but it's also a totally different beast.
I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I can't, I try to tell people, it was like, this is what I was meant to do. It was like something bigger than a business. This was like, everything started falling into place. My family life, everything was just moving at the right pace for me. And I felt like decisions were so easy to make. After that kind of 3 months where I had a little bit of a setback where, is this right? Am I doing the right thing? After that, I never looked back. It was just, this is what Ryan Casey was made to do.
Did you head out there?
I headed out to the Middle East, and again, just implemented the good handshakes, the good manners out there. And it's just a different animal. It's just a completely different animal. And I enjoyed that challenge. Every day was a unique challenge. And like I'm saying, I knew then that mentality, if I can complete this, I'm going to be better tomorrow. And it was just those little steps, and the big brands just kept coming. We'd gone from working in the car park of the Irish Open the first year to be the official recovery partner of the DP World Tour, which was, for a brand our size, in 3 years. So you're thinking a recovery box, 3 years, to go working with probably the biggest golf brand in the world as the official recovery partner. And that's the type of scale and movement we were dealing with, that we'd gone from providing that service to being the main provider on a 3-year contract.
This is why I labored the point at the start about your journey, because it is remarkable. 3 years, like you said, from the box to being the official recovery partner. That's astronomical. I was watching the Ryder Cup coverage and a lot of it online, and you were just popping up. There's the bats, Rory signing that bat. That's kind of iconic moment of him. They've just won, and there's been so much talk. Yeah. Me and you have chatted about this. There's been so much hype and talk about it. What happened, what didn't happen, behind the scenes, the tension. And then on the Monday, it's Rory signing the bat. Because they're so distinctive. The bats are very distinctive. A C11 bats. Him signing the bat, and then the social media is just... So in the last 6 months, what do you think anything has changed, or has it just been a continuation of the growth you've had? I don't think anything massive's changed. We're still the exact same, I'd say, from the recovery box. The mentality, obviously we're dealing with a completely different audience, but we still do a recovery session. I just had a chat in the coffee shop before you. I dusted off the Snickers at the weekend and built a sauna because we were short staff and it had to be done. And I feel like that will never change. I loved it. It was probably one of my most favorite days. Like you said, I've just come back from New York, Team Europe winning an away kind of Ryder Cup with the hostile crowd, all the talk, which was incredible. And it's something I'll never forget. But on Sunday,
it was spilling rain. I had my toolbox. I was in a Snickers making a sauna, you know, and I got just as much enjoyment out of Sunday than I did at the Ryder Cup. And I think that's the key. And that's what I keep bringing it back to the journey. If you enjoy what you're doing, even a bad day where it's lashing rain and you're building a sauna, you can get joy from that. You know, it makes the bad days so much better.
So where are we now in 2025, coming towards the end of 2025? Where is C11 now? Give me like the snapshot of here we are as we kind of head towards 2026. It's probably going to be an even bigger year for you next year. Like, where are we now?
So we're the official Avantpool distributors in Ireland, the UK and the Middle East. So every cold plunge that enters any of those regions comes through C11 Recovery. We've partnered with probably some of the biggest brands around the world. Optimum Nutrition is our official nutrition sponsor. We're the official recovery partner of the DP World Tour. We're the official recovery partner of Munster Rugby. We're the official recovery partner of Basketball Ireland. And we're the official recovery partner of Cricket Ireland. So we've gone from knocking at the door to kind of as many GA club teams as possible to maybe working at some of the biggest events around the world. We've covered the Ryder Cup, all the Rolex Series events at the golf. We've done installations in 14 of the current Premier League teams. So we've worked with 14. Just recently, we've done an installation in Man City. We've covered the Open, both male and female. We lead into our event season now in the Middle East, where we've got 3 golf events. We cover the T100 as the official recovery partner.
That seems to be getting huge.
Massive, huge event. One of my favorite events out in Dubai. And then we come across the Dubai Sevens, where we work directly with Emirates. And we cover the Dubai Sevens in Dubai. And then back out in January for the Dubai Desert Classic, the golf event. So
not a bad life, is it?
No, it's when you say it like that, and when I kind of think back, I'm like, wow, that's impressive, you know?
But it is, though. And I think this is why I wanted to kind of like draw the picture around the 3 years, because I think there's people listening going, deadly. Yeah. That's class.
Like if in 3 years, if someone had said from that recovery box, and 3 years in business is a really short time, you know, it's really short. So you're going from 0 in the bank account to a plastic Tupperware with a pair of Normatec boots to being in charge of all the recovery equipment for Team Europe at a Ryder Cup in 3 years. And that, to some people, sounds crazy, but somewhere in here, not for me. I was like, I knew that was going to happen. Do you know, maybe it wasn't golf, but I knew that when I took that leap of faith from leaving my dad, I owed it to him. And I owed it to my family that I was going to create something that was going to be at this level.
It's not a coincidence either, I don't think. Like, I know I smiled there, but like, it's not a coincidence that there is a huge power to visualization. I think it's definitely overlooked a lot. I think if you don't visualize these things, they might come true, they might not. But if you do see it so clearly in your mind's eye, and it's very hard because you're like, how can I visualize something I've never done? And I think your journey is just a perfect example. And so I'm so excited to get you on today, because Ireland needs more companies like this operating at speed. You're a normal company. I was explaining this to my physio. I was on the bed this morning. She goes, oh, have you got a pods today? Who are you chatting? I was like, I can't wait for today. I was like, this is just a great story, because it's hard graft. It's logic. It's good business. And it's everything a good business should be. Like, there's no fancy tech involved. There's no AI thing. You didn't get 50 million in funding. You just grafted.
Yeah.
And grafted clever, but took big risks and big opportunities. That's the key difference. We talked about this over coffee. The donkey doesn't own the farm.
Yeah.
Right? You know, whereas hard graft combined with a vision and combined with risk taking and backing yourself, that's the secret sauce. People confuse. There's still this hustle culture online of like, oh, I did a 14-hour day, bro. And I'm like, you're sitting on a laptop. Well, what have you done for 14 hours?
Yeah.
Like, you'd be better off meeting people for 5 of them, working the laptop for 2, and then recovering.
Yeah. I'm fully believe the hustle mentality, but you have to hustle smart. Do you know, a lot of people can get caught up and they come to me, and I'm even in such a short space of time, I'm lucky that I can chat to people and they're like, well, I've done this, I was here. And I was like, yeah, but you have to make the most of your time. You have to be smart. You have to have some plan that you're working towards. And there's a lot of hard decisions along the way that this isn't going to better me. So it has to step aside. This isn't going to bring me to where I need to be. It has to step aside. This person isn't going to bring me to where I want to be. Unfortunately, you have to remove, and that's just the way it is. And like I said to you, all I know is hard work. And a few people have said to me before, well, if hard work, the donkey would own the farm. But like, I don't think there's anything better than a smart donkey, because he's going to bring you with him.
I'll take it. We've talked about obviously the highlights, but what's been the biggest challenges you've seen over your 3 years? And I always ask kind of people this question, but you have a very unique take on this, I would think, because you've had explosive growth. Mm-hmm. So what's been the biggest challenges that go with that explosive growth?
I mentioned it a little bit earlier, the loneliness of being an entrepreneur and the kind of having to realize that maybe some of your best friends, you just move into different circles. And that was something I struggled with hugely. And it really upset me over the kind of time at C11 Recovery that I just kind of, not that I outgrew people, but you were going in a different direction. And that's, as adults, you kind of have to take that. But that was something I struggled with. There was a lot of days that when you're building something at that pace, no one understands. You can't just go and have a chat with someone that could say, yeah, well, because you're trying to do something that's never been done before. So there's no book, there's no YouTube clip. You're literally trying to build something. And it's that bit of loneliness that I struggled with a little bit, that I had to you have to back yourself 100%, that these decisions, because you can get caught up in it and be like, oh, I've lost this person, I'm not talking to this person anymore, is this all worth it? But you have to kind of have that delusion that look, this is the path, this is the way it has to go.
How do you balance this yourself? Just thinking as I'm hearing you talking there, because I talk about the business, the brain and the body on the podcast. So how do you manage those three? Have you been able to over this rocket ship, or how do you, because obviously your business is health and wellness, right?
Yeah.
So how do you take on all the good practices you're seeing from the likes of the Rorys and the Hallands of the world and apply them to yourself?
It has to become a lifestyle. C11 isn't a job for me anymore. And it never was a job. It's my lifestyle. So it's it sounds, and people probably think, I've probably got one of the best jobs in the world. Like, I'll go visit sauna and cold plunge location, sit in a sauna and have a business meeting in a cold plunge, in a sauna, so I'm very fortunate in that way. So it kind of has just become 24/7. Everything I do evolves around C11 Recovery, and I love it. My friends, my relationships, everything is some way works around the business. And people might say that's not healthy, but it works for me. Mm. It mightn't work for everyone, and I completely understand that. Some people need time to switch off. But like, I just chatted to you. I'm literally leaving here tonight, jumping on a plane to go to Stamford Bridge with my cousin, my brother, my content creator for a Champions League game, to watch Chelsea and Ajax, because we're working with Ajax tonight and tomorrow, So I'm literally living my dream, and I love it. So it's easy for me to keep this train running and get energy and get motivated every day, because I'm doing exactly what I want to do.
That's the dream.
Yeah.
You've kind of summed up the dream. I think there's often a martyr complex with entrepreneurs and founders. People often think they have to be that Elon Musk quote of like, being an entrepreneur is chewing glass in the darkness.
Yeah.
I just find it it's a bit like the hustle culture. I kind of wish that would be one of those things that would die off, because you have full control over your life. Yeah. You have full control over all the decisions you make, over your mindset. You have control over how you're building the business. You are building a business you want to build, that you love. Too many people pick businesses they hate, and they think, I'll just do it. I'm like, well, are you going to do it for 10 to 20 years? Because that's what it's going to take to build a business of any sort of scale. That's the reality.
But it goes back to that people kind of get caught up on money. I feel like if we could remove money, which obviously the world needs it, but people are building businesses to create income. That was never the plan with C11 Recovery. I was building something that I wanted to be proud of, that gave, my brother a job, that I could kind of provide for other people, and that was my mentality. Now, we're very fortunate now that we're in a position that C11 is where it is, but we were building it for different reasons to make money, or how much was in the bank account at the end of the week or the end of the month, the end of the year. Because if that was the goal, I would have stayed with my dad. I was on an incredible salary job with my dad. I would have eventually took that over, you know, but it was to build something different. And I feel like if you're in it for the right reasons, it's just so much easier.
What elite? You've been behind the curtain, right? You've been behind the scenes at Ryder Cup, behind the scenes with all these incredible athletes. What are the kind of lessons you've taken off them? What are the key things? Because they always say like what the athletes are doing, the general population be doing in 5 or 10 years. What are the key things you're seeing now that, you know, elite people that are listening to this podcast or should start implementing into their lives?
There's no secret sauce. You know, Rory doesn't do anything different than I've seen your maybe high-end inter-county footballer or even club player do. But it's discipline and it's consistency. He does it every day. He doesn't miss a day. He you know, it's not this week he feels, you know, there's a big boost of energy. He's going to come do this workout. He's going to do his cold plunge. He does it every day. You know, I always kind of laugh, and even at the start of this, you're saying, what did I have for breakfast? And I say, I'm like a dog. I have the same thing every morning. It's just consistency. It's consistency. It's no special secret. It's no crazy workout he does or anything out of the ordinary, but he does it every day. And he doesn't, no matter what his mood is. And it's not just Rory. It's, you know, you look at the Kerry footballers, you look at the Man Cities of this world. They just do the same thing over and over again to the best of their ability. And it's that simple. And that question you asked me, people love asking me that. They're like, tell me what he done. Tell me. It's nothing special. He eats the same food as everyone. You know, he just makes the right decisions and he just does it every single day.
It's consistency.
Consistency.
I was having that conversation with a mate of mine this morning. I was just saying, man, you're running. We train together almost every day. And I just, in the last 3 to 4 months, he's just gone up like that. And he was already at a high level, but he's gone an extra 20%. And he's a very humble guy. He's very nice. And he kind of goes, it's just consistency. And I was like, that's the hardest thing in the world.
Yeah.
It's, as you said, there's no secret sauce. Consistency is the hardest thing in the world. I love the phrase like consistently good, not occasionally great.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's all about, whether it's sport or business. That's why I love having these conversations. These are my favorite conversations, the kind of merge between sport and business, because the two align so well.
Yeah.
Like elite sports stars and elite business people, they just have the ability to show up every single day. And you referenced it earlier. If I'm not having a great day, I still show up.
Yeah.
And I'm a version of a consistently good person. So it's impossible to really ask you this question. Like, what's coming down the line for you? Because you probably don't even know yourself. You've had such an explosive growth. What is 26, 27? Obviously, you're a planner. We don't plan too much. What do you want to happen?
I kind of, yeah, like you said, there's no huge business plan, you know, because it's so hard to judge kind of where C11 goes. But it comes back to what I had from day one of C11 Recovery, that I want every elite athlete in the world, that when they think of sports recovery, them 3 little blue logos and C11 pops into their mind. I want every elite athlete. I want every athlete in the world to think about C11. And people will listen and say, that's crazy. That's what I want. That's what I want to keep going and enjoy it. You know, I don't want this to become something in 3-4 years where I'm like, oh, I want to kind of get out of this, you know? I want in 10, 20 years to still go for a flat white and still be showing up at Champion League games with my family and just having some fun.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great night.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing, isn't it? Like you build the life you want. Mm-hmm. I think too many people think, oh, when I sell this business, then I'll be happy. And you're like, well, if you're not happy now, I don't think, because I've had this beautiful journey over the last 4 or 5 years, been able to talk to some of the best people in the world who've had like massive sales and massive exits, and almost without fail, I'm like a broken record repeating this story, but like almost without fail, they go, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Didn't really feel too much, being honest.
Yeah, I've got that. I've had conversations with people and I love pulling that, and it's a little bit, you're expecting them to tell you, you know, and this is another thing I always call it, the coppers mentality. Because like maybe it's me coming from the country, but when I was young, I was like, I want to get the coppers. I want to get the coppers. Coppers is going to be the be all.
You've all been there, to be fair.
I got the coppers, and I'm sorry, you know, it's maybe not the best place in the world when you finally get in the door. It's a sticky floor, and it's just like another nightclub, you know. So I use that as the coppers mentality. But today is the best day of my life, 100%. Tomorrow is going to be the next best day of my life. Do you know? Like that's my mentality now. Today, I'm enjoying it more than any other day. When I wake up tomorrow, that's going to be the best day. You know, and that sort of, it's hard to knock anyone that's on that sort of energy and level, you know, and I feel like it's just brought me that little bit of negativity's gone, you know, and I'm just where I want to be.
Like, what a beautiful way to look at things, because I think that's what it's all about. That's what life, that's what business should be all about. Not everyone takes it that way, but that's what life and business should be all about.
Cybercrime is exploding. Ransomware, phishing, AI-powered attacks, they're hitting businesses every single day. Most companies just don't survive a major breach. Nostra's Cloud Shield 365 gives you complete, always-on protection. Built on Microsoft Business Premium with advanced threat detection, 24/7 monitoring, and compliance built in. This isn't a nice to have anymore. It's essential. Don't wait until your business becomes a headline. Visit nostra.ie, that's nostra.ie, and get your business protected today. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to share a game changer for your business, Azure Communications. When it comes to print and marketing solutions, these folks, led by CEO Jenny Johnston, are the real deal. Whether you need an eye-catching brochure, sleek business cards, or a full-blown digital campaign, Azure Communications has you covered. They're not just about high-quality prints or digital campaigns, they're also about delivering great results. And here's the best part. Just for listeners of the Entrepreneur Experiment, you can get 20% off your first order. Just give them a call or go online and use the code VOX20. With personalized service and fast turnaround times, Azure Communications will help you make the impact your business deserves. Trust me, when it comes to making your brand stand out, Azure Communications is the provider of choice. Check them out at azure.com.ie. Use code VOX20 and elevate your marketing game today.
We're going to move on to our quick fire round.
Yeah.
What is your superpower?
My superpower is how I care for people. And it's been something that I've always been proud of. I can judge a room. I can judge the energy and mood of a person really well. And I know when to put my arm around their shoulder, and then maybe when to give them a little bit of a kick in the hole. And I feel like kind of reading the room like that is my superpower.
Love that. How I care for people.
Yeah.
Never had that. What daily habit is the secret to your success?
My diary, my journal. If I could give anything to anyone, whether you're in school, it's just a book of evidence. I used to have it when I used to play hurling and football. Anything I done went into that diary. And if I ever doubted myself, I went back to it. And just a little thing on that, and people think I'm mad. I've worked every Christmas day since C11 started. 100%. I do 2 or 3 hours in the morning. It's not needed. Like this year, I attached receipts to expenses Christmas morning. But I know it just gives me that little bit of an edge that maybe another entrepreneur
you want that
didn't
smugness.
work. Yeah, maybe it's that one day that other people took off. But my diary and like comes everywhere with me, and it's just a book of evidence.
How do you journal?
Everything, absolutely. Yeah. Whether it's the waiter's name, whether it's anything like that, it's kind of how I feel, what I'm grateful for. Everything goes into that book. And at the end of the night, before my head hits the pillow, I read over it, and I kind of, it's so important to know people's names. It's so important to take a step back and just kind of what you've done, what you're proud of, how that day went. And it's just everything. Then when you stack it up at any hard days, difficult moments, you've got a book there that's like, well, I've done the work, I'm ready to move.
I am stealing that from you. Book of evidence.
Yeah.
That is an absolute gem. Love that. All right, I'm gonna start doing that. What's the most interesting experiment you've tried in your life or business?
Gratitude. It's something that probably my diary has shifted a little bit towards over the last kind of 2 years, and it's just made everything so much easier, and you appreciate so much more. And I'm not saying gratitude, I'm delighted I have a nice Jeep and I've this or that. It's the simple things. You know, I'm grateful that I've got money to buy a coffee. I'm grateful that I get to meet people like you. I'm grateful that I get to spend time with my family. And it's things that when you're on a kind of rocket ship or you're kind of moving at that pace, you can forget. You know, I got to eat dinner the other night with my grandparents. Like, that's beautiful for me. You know, that's what I'm grateful for. Not so many sales or so many numbers in the Middle East. It's the simple things. Try peel it back to the simple things. And that's been huge for me.
Enjoying simple things, you'll enjoy the big things even more.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you €1 million. You can invest in one person or one company. It can't be yourself. Who is it?
Well, once you rule me out, you know, that's my that would have been my first answer.
That's
100%.
why I put in the caveat. I had to put that caveat in because everyone go, I back myself.
Yeah,
like,
but there's two guys, Conor Myler and Ronan Jones, have brought out a new brand recently, Vio, and they've got an amazing product. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like in business, like always, you're investing in the people. And the two lads are really good lads. Like Ronan's network, the experience he's gained and the experience that he would have brought into Whoop is incredible. Conor is, you know, probably one of the most dedicated people in terms of his career, his sport, coming back from injuries, and now business. So if I was to invest, it'd be in the two lads, and they're two good GAA men as well. So
it's a great shout. I love the lads. I've known Ronan now for a couple of years. Gent.
Yeah, really nice guys.
Operator. That is a super shout. What's the single most important word in your business?
Reset. 100%. You know, people will probably listen back to this and say, he's so positive, you know, and I kind of try to get my mindset, but there is days where stuff can get away from you. And it was a word that my dad drilled into me in terms of my sports career and business. Stuff will go away from you. Stuff will pivot and change. But if you've got that reset, that you can just take those 3 seconds to yourself and go again, clear the head, clear your mind, you know, and I say it out loud. If anyone's listening to me, I could say reset 3 or 4 times during the day. When I'm playing games, anything, it's just them 3 seconds and I'm ready to go again.
Great little mental hack. Again, you've given us some savage frameworks today and savage little kind of like nuggets to kind of go, okay, yeah, just reset. Because it's all common sense.
Yeah.
But it's just doing it day after day.
Mm-hmm.
What do you believe that people will find weird or strongly disagree with you on?
You can be successful at absolutely anything in this day and age. You can create a business, you can create a relationship. There's so much opportunity out there for absolutely anyone. There's no roadblocks. If you've got a good mentality and a good work ethic, you can be successful in any walk of life.
What's been your best investment?
I've 2 things. So obviously Son and Cold Plunge. You know, I can't come away from that. It's changed my life. It's even today, it's my 20, 30 minutes that I can step outside. And then the second is the Dixon brothers. I've got Niall and Tommy that do all my content. And it was something at the start of C11 Recovery. I was like, coming from a construction background and people were telling me how important content is. And I was like, no, you know, we are okay with our phone, but the 2 guys, like you go on to C11 Recovery's Instagram. Some nights I just scroll through my own Instagram. I'm like, this is incredible. The work the guys have done has just brought us. It's something that we struggled with because we were going to all these cool places, but they've now selling the dream for me. They're capturing moments that I can't wait to look back at when I'm 50, 60 years of age. Yeah, and I owe a lot to the 2 lads.
Love that. I love that you bring people with you.
Yeah.
I like people. One of my pet peeves in life is people who pull the ladder. People who pull the ladder behind them. That is my pet peeve. I love people that bring people on the journey. What's been your worst investment?
So I'm still only in business 3 years. So I'm not like, I listen to the podcast and some people have made some really cool investments and stuff. But the one thing I have at the moment is my time. And I feel like I invested my time at the start in places that didn't deserve my time. I was maybe pushing it in the wrong direction. So I think the most valuable thing I have now is my time. And it's maybe a mistake I made in the past was investing it in the wrong avenues that wasn't bringing me in the direction I wanted to go.
Okay. Final question. What is the best piece of advice you've gotten or given in the last 12 months?
It's a difficult one because I surround myself with so many important people, but a lot, and it's something I'm working on an awful lot this year, is my faith, you know, and it's something I've been putting a lot of time and effort in, and I've kind of bought into it a lot now, and I believe that I'm on a path that I'm meant to be on. You know, I'm living my life how I'm meant to be living it. And it's, you know, I sat down with a guy a couple of months ago and he explained that to me. And when you kind of, not surrender, but when you get that mindset that this is meant to happen, everything that happens is meant to happen. I go back to the traffic. That traffic could have saved your life. You know, you're sitting there for 10 minutes, but if you were a little bit ahead, what could have happened? You missed that flight, what could have happened? You know? So when you kind of buy into that mentality that this is the plan, this is how it's meant to happen, and you're just meant to put your best foot forward and enjoy it. It's just, in 12 months, I can't explain the freedom I've got from my mind and everything, that it's just working out exactly how it's meant to work out.
Ryan, what a beautiful chat.
Thank you.
That was an absolute incredible 90 minutes. Where can people learn more about you and C11?
Hopefully everywhere. Everywhere they look. If it's on social media, podcasts, LinkedIn, just come along. If you see me, if anyone sees me in the street and has enjoyed what I said or enjoys it, stop me, because you will not need a second invitation to sit down for a flat white. Like I'll be there.
If I'm a flat white, he's yours.
I'm yours, and I just love to talk, and I love hearing people's stories as much as I love telling my own story.
I think we're going to have to do this again, maybe in 18 months to 2 years, but we'll do it in Dubai.
Yes, sounds good. Can't wait to have you.
Gent.
Thank you.